What would you do if your family moved to a new land? A place where you didn't speak the language? How soon could you be up and running, going to work, communicating with coworkers and neighbors? Our next guest will talk about the extremely important function of language in our lives. Sara Proaño is Director of Language Services at the Hispanic Center of Western Michigan. Sara, bienvenidos. Welcome to Feel Like You Belong.
Muchas gracias. Thank
De
you.
nada. So your family moves a lot.
Yes.
Moving around. Can you talk about your moving and how your family is very itinerant?
Sure. Yeah, well, we like to say that we're Latin American. My dad is from the Andes, Ecuador, Quito, the capital. And then he married my mom, who is from the valley of El Cauca in Colombia. And they went to live in Venezuela in a city called Maracay. They had my brother, my older brother, David. Then after a while, they decided to go study in Mexico, in Cuernavaca, Morelos.
So people are counting us, okay, 4 countries, okay.
Yeah, that's 4 countries right there. And we stayed in Venezuela, but he also traveled very often to Curacao, Trinidad y Tobago, and other places in the Caribbean. So we were around. And then finally we moved back to Ecuador, and we stayed there. But our summers, there's no summer in the equator, by the way, but our vacation time was spent in Colombia, in Cali, the city where my mom is from.
Okay.
So yeah, you could say that I have many backgrounds and I'm from all over.
Okay. So what brought you to the Hispanic Center of Western Michigan? And after talking about your coming there, what attracted you, tell us about the mission.
Well, when I got to the U.S. About 9 years ago, I Googled all the organizations that I was interested in, and I looked for opportunities, for volunteering opportunities. And I started in the Hispanic Center. Actually, I was the paper shredder. All the documents that needed to be shredded, they were mine, and I took care of that. At the time, I didn't have my paperwork to work in the U.S. ready. I had to wait about 3 months for that to come. So I worked as a volunteer in the beginning. And then when my paperwork arrived, they offered me a job in the Language Services Department. So I started there, and then my involvement with them changed, and I went from that department to the Domestic Violence Department, and then back into Language Services. I like working in the Hispanic Center because it's an organization that serves the needs of the Hispanic community in West Michigan, and understands those needs because we are the community. The center is the Hispanic community in works, in action. So we respond to the needs that we see that are happening because we understand them, because they're
So give
our
us an
needs.
overview of the range of services.
There's 3 departments. The Family Support Services Department that helps families succeed. They have education. They have a preschool. They also have GED in Spanish, the only GED in Spanish in this area.
Wow.
They have domestic violence and sexual assault services for victims. They have an immigration service that helps them obtain their immigration papers from Mexico, and they're working now with the Guatemalan embassy as well.
Do they do citizenship classes?
They don't, but they have the material and the referrals to provide to whoever is interested. So we work heavily on collaboration with other agencies because there's no need for duplication. We can work together and use whoever is doing a service that we need. If they're doing it well, we will work with them.
And my sense is that the Hispanic Center is a highly collaborative community organization.
We'd like to think that. Sometimes I think we could do more. But you could always do more. But the Family Support Services basically makes sure that the families are going to succeed, that they have everything they need. So if there's first needs or issues with their health, access to health care, or issues of how to buy things that are healthy, all those things. Then the a youth program deals with the children. They make sure that the kids go to school and stay in school, and also they help them access the university with the scholarships, making sure that they see themselves in a professional environment and have dreams and things like that.
Sure.
Then the 3rd department is my department.
Which I'd like to hear more about.
Sure.
Language Services.
Language Services. So we do three things. We do interpretations and translations and language acquisition. We teach Spanish. We have professional interpreters. We form these interpreters. So we take a person that is bilingual, that is interested in the interpretation profession, and we help them understand what that means, get the basic training, and then choose what area of service they're going to go to. There's different areas
And
of
for
service.
some of our viewers who may not be familiar, what's the difference between interpretation and translation?
Well, that is debatable, but what we have agreed on is that interpretation is a verbal communication conveying a message from one language to another verbally, but translation is the written part. So a message that is written is
so you can do translation work at home on your computer by yourself?
Yes, and we do have professional translators that do that, and we have a person that manages every project. So that she receives a request, decides what translator is good for what job, and then handles the whole project, translation, proofreading, the editing if there's any, and then delivers the product
because
to the
there are
client.
different content areas and then different kinds of expertise depending on the area.
Right, yes. You got to choose the right person for the right job. And that's translations. And then we have interpreters, and we have interpreters in three areas. We do medical, legal, and community interpreting. And we form them. You know, the difference is that we are a nonprofit, so we don't only provide the service, but we also do the professional development part, because it's part of our strategy to straighten the financial stabilization or the financial situation of the community through jobs.
Because as I understand it, your interpreters are actually employees. And there's more security, because in this industry, a lot of people are freelancers.
Correct.
And they don't have benefits.
Right. And then sometimes they don't have a way to pay their certifications and to access training because of their financial situation. They're trying to survive day to day, especially in the immigrant communities.
Sure.
So we make sure that they access the training that they need and access those certifications that will give them a better wage, and at the same time will provide better interpreters and translators for the other freelance agencies or agencies that contract with freelance. So we're kind of increasing the accessibility of wonderful interpreters that are certified, and at the same time providing stabilization for their financial situation.
And you told a very touching story about three different individuals who had different levels of certification and how that was actually working to empower their lives. Could you share those just briefly?
Sure. We have three levels. Level A, B, and C. C level is the person that is bilingual, is interested in the interpretation profession, has gotten maybe the 40 hours of training, so they understand the difference between a professional interpreter and just a bilingual person. They have read and understood and be tested on standards of practice and code of ethics. And but they are starting, so they don't have a lot of experience, or they have 1 year or less of experience, no certifications yet. So that's kind of like the beginning level. And we help them to do shadowing, we expose them to the profession, we create free trainings where people can come and learn about the profession.
So they're getting professional guidance into
Correct.
the profession.
Right.
Yeah.
And also the place where they can practice under a secure environment that will help them grow. The level B is a person that is half certified or qualified, depending on the field of practice. They have 3+ years of experience already working as an interpreter, and they have also some skill, some special skill. And the interpreter A are fully certified interpreters with 10 or 15+ years of experience as in the interpretation field. They usually are those simultaneous interpreters that you see in events that handle the equipment. They also do court interpreting and site interpretation. So the level of skill is more, and obviously their payment also is better. So that's where we want everybody to be. But we make sure that they have the opportunities to help themselves and train themselves to get to that point.
Sure. And I think your example was, in one case, one person was an immigrant and is working at the beginning level. Another person, I think, is a native speaker of English who also spoke Spanish and wanted to get integrated into this work.
Correct.
And can you talk about the impact on their personal lives because of their work with you?
Yes, the Hispanic Center is trying to help not only the language accessibility part for the community, but also the professional development, because we see professional development and workforce development as a way to help the region financially, you know, helping people obtain jobs, support their families. And the impact is huge. For a person that was before, and what you were mentioning is an egg packer. She was an egg packer, and I have also a person that works as a mechanic, and they want to do something else. They are bilingual. They want to see themselves in a different field. So we take them from there to those 40 hours of intensive training where they can see the possibilities and really understand what will take for them to get to the next level and see if they're willing to do it. Not everybody does it. Being an interpreter is not easy.
Oh, it's very hard work.
It's very hard work. Being a translator is even harder. A translator, it's a person that needs a lot of vocabulary. They need also skills in the computer. Many, many things are involved there. They have to learn. They have to
Well,
start
and there's
that
this
process.
understanding of nuance that if you don't get that, you know, communication gets missed.
Correct.
Sure.
Yeah.
We're going to need to wrap up in just a minute, but what would you like our viewers to understand about the U.S. Hispanic population?
Well, I don't think that I can speak for the whole Hispanic population, but I can say that at least if we recognize that there's many things that we don't know, that's a good place to start. The more we know, the better we understand how little we know. And when a person knows very little, it's easier to make a statement that can be insensitive and not informed. So I would say a good place to start is to recognize that we need to recognize our own lacking, you know, that we are lacking in many ways. And with that humility, I think that we can hear others, we can listen and really see their realities. And that way, I think that we can really create communities that talk to each other and that straighten each other. We can collaborate. I believe in that.
And ultimately creating maybe some mutual respect.
Correct. I think that that's the goal. But it won't happen unless we recognize that we have to learn from each other, that there are things that we won't understand. And coming from that point, we can open up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you need volunteers at the Hispanic Center?
Absolutely, always.
How do people find you and find out how they can help?
So they can go to our webpage, is www.hispaniccenter.org. And then there's many different departments, and there's a link there also for volunteering. There's a volunteer coordinator that will be contacting them. And there's many opportunities so that they can decide which one they want to take and apply. Okay. Hopefully they will be taken.
Awesome, awesome. And thereby strengthening our overall community.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming by and telling your story.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You bet.
Double vowels. Vowel number 13, I, is a combination of vowel number 6, ah, that glides up into vowel number 1, e. I.